What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV. Happy Tuesday. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're coming back, hit the thumbs up button. Maybe the notification bell. Get alerted every time we get a new video. Today we're talking about Judgment Day, D-Day. Seems like today is the big day, pivotal moment for crypto. I should say pivotal moment, critical moment, whatever you want to call it. We're going to walk through what's going on, look at the altcoin market, and then we're going to talk about some of the bigger macro issues that are happening, a couple of partnerships, what it means for the industry, and what potentially the next few months looks like. The goal of these videos always is to help you make better decisions, participate in the financial revolution of a lifetime, while none of this is professional advice, as always. Got to say it every day, guys. Love it. So we're looking at Bitcoin right now. For anybody listening to the podcast, we are just looking at the 1 day on Bitfinex, keeping it pretty simple. And there's two lines that we're looking at this week. The first is the downward trend line. This is a log trend line that we're approaching quickly, probably within the next couple of days, depending on if we stay bullish or sideways or if we go down. The other line is right around 7,500, which is a support level. Interim support level, I should say, from this previous upswing, around 7,500. So the two narratives that we're seeing, or I'm seeing, I should say, across the social networks, across the channels, across everybody, the kind of overall vision or sentiment is that some people think we may go down and bounce off this 7,500. Some people may think that we're going to blast through because now that the U.S. tax day today's the day, that's the impetus for a lot of new money to come in. And I'm going to discuss why that is a potentially relevant news source. Some people may disagree and think that the United States is not that important and tax day isn't a big deal, but I think it is actually a bigger deal than people think it may be. And I want to talk about that in a second. And so these are the two ways it could go. I think more people are looking for a cool down to 7,500 at the very least than people who are bullish. And so you can take that for what it is. I mean, it's very hard to predict against the masses about which way it's going to go. All you can really do is have a plan for each way. I think that feeds into the number of emails that I'm getting or comments, messages, whatever, is definitely increasing about questions surrounding the idea of what do I do? I don't know what to do. I've $2,000. What should I do? I don't want to mess this up type of situation. And, it may be frustrating to hear somebody on YouTube or Twitter or whatever who says, well, here's one option, here's another option. I don't know what's going to happen. But you got to realize that's what this is. It's a game of probabilities. It's not a game of yes or no. It's not binary. You have to gauge what the probability is. And everybody's got their own set of probabilities because someone may measure technical analysis higher. Some people may measure sentiment higher than anything else. So obviously I'll share my thoughts, but that's how you need to look at this. And so when you look at it like a probability, you look at the potential outcomes of price in this case. You also got to look at your investment funds the same way, like a sliding scale. Probabilities are 0 to 100%. Right? With your investments, you can do the same thing. If you are 25% sure that it's going to go up, then maybe 25% of your portfolio is bullish, meaning you actually go buy with 25% of your funds. If you think it's 25% or 75% bullish, chances of it going up, maybe you put 75% of your funds in and you keep 25% in fiat or whatever you want to do. But that's the way you want to think about it. It's never 100%. It's never all or nothing. It's always binary. And it's always, it's very rare that you will say like, this is definitely going to happen this way. And it happens that way unless you have some sort of information that the market does not have. And it's few and far between that you'll ever see that, especially in a public forum. So I think that's really important to keep in mind as you make a decision on what to do next, as you wait for it to go down, or if you think it's going to go up, you analyze your probabilities. I'm truly 50-50 at this point. Yesterday, I thought it was going to go down, but because there's so many people that are thinking it might go down, it might just stagnate. I think that this trend line is a bigger deal than people think. So I wouldn't be surprised if it just kind of fluttered around here. But we do need some catalyst. Maybe this tax thing is that. So I don't know. I'm really 50-50. And what that means is that I'm not going to do anything, which is actually often what makes the most money. It's not doing anything or doesn't lose any money. That's for sure. So that's good. Now, one thing that's interesting, if we've talked about this a bit in the past, where when you're looking at Bitcoin, it's often helpful to look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin kind of as side by sides. And the reason why is those are typically what the fiat on-ramps, that's what is being purchased the most with fiat for now, right? That's going to change, obviously. And sometimes there's a different order on which one goes first. Last week, Ethereum was obviously leading the charge. Bitcoin moved pretty sizably over the weekend first. And then today, this morning, last night, wherever you are, Litecoin made a move. So I'm going to go into the 1 hour here on Litecoin. And we definitely saw Litecoin making this bull run much more clearly and a little bit before Bitcoin made its run, relatively speaking. So from a percentage gain in the price. And then Bitcoin started to follow Litecoin's lead. Litecoin's obviously cooling off a bit. But it's always interesting what that means. And without knowing exactly what it is, and there's maybe some new partnerships or whatever, but I look at just the decision process. What is the people side of this? And let's say the masses believe that this tax day is done and it's party time. We're going to go bull run, and they wanted to buy into a coin, and they went on the Coinbase, which is what a lot of retail investors do. What would they buy first? Well, from last year, we know they're going to buy Litecoin. It's the cheapest one on there. And so that may be a good indicator that there's some bullish sentiment brewing that relates to the same sentiment that drove what is considered alt season last time. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but that's a narrative that I would explore, that I will explore today. I'm going to spend a couple hours, see if I can prove myself right and prove myself wrong on that. But anytime you're in these moments where you're trying to create probabilities and gauge whether or not it's going to go bullish or bearish, that's a really good place to start. Look at Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin side by side, and then you can make a decision. Now, I did a poll this morning. I always put this out. I would encourage you guys, go on Twitter. Make sure you follow me, Carter Thomas, on Twitter. And because I put these polls out for both, I'm interested in it, and also because this is really good data for all of you. So you can vote, and then you can see what a relatively good sample size is. Obviously, it's self-qualifying because my followers tend to be everyone has their own follower crew. But the question was, USA taxes are due today. What is your sentiment for Bitcoin price over the next 48 hours? That first is very bearish, bullish, very bullish. And very bearish was 8%, bearish was 23%, bullish was 47%, very bullish was 22%. So that's what, 69% is bullish, relatively speaking, and 31% is bearish. So that's almost 2/3 people think that we're going up in the next 48 hours, and almost a quarter think it's going to be a big move up. So this is good, very good data, in my opinion, from all of you guys and from a segment of the population, at least the people that follow me on Twitter. Now, why is this a big deal? I think that this is a question. Well, the first thing is I think timing. I think the fact that this is happening right when we're near the trend line, right when we are at a kind of a critical support moment where this is make or break for Bitcoin. Like if it doesn't go up quickly, or if it doesn't find some big support soon so that it can go up quickly, the bottom is there. And if it breaks through that bottom floor, that's an issue. So I think the timing is big. This is kind of like, remember when the G20 news came out? Go back. I can't remember exactly what the date was on that, to be perfectly honest, but maybe it was on the 17th. I could be wrong, but the G20 news came out and it was like the markets just went nuts. Now the G20 was not a big deal. No one was talking about that before, but it was a perfect time. There's a lot of pent-up buying demand. Everybody needed it to happen. So I think that's the first reason. It's just a powerful, compelling story that the media is pushing, that a lot of people, social media is pushing. It's a good narrative to get people to buy into the market, right? Put money back in. So that's number one. Number two is I think that the things that really move the market right now, especially the way liquidity works with the market caps, is that the more that the top, let's call it 10% of crypto holders, crypto people are affected, the bigger the impact will be, especially as it relates to money. Now, for the most part, and you can go look at the other polls that I did, most people think like, oh man, taxes, I'm not going to get a refund and taxes or whatever. It's not the first thing on the mind. It's more like a pain, or like something you don't like doing, whatever. It's definitely not a political statement about taxes or anything. The bigger thing though, is that let's say you made $50 million or $100 million in crypto last year. And if you made $100 million in crypto, probably took some profits along the way. I mean, those kind of numbers, you don't ride that entire position. So let's say you took 20 million in profits. Now, depending on what state you live in, that's going to be that's a legit chunk of cash. So you get all of these big holders out there who have huge amounts of funds who potentially have very, very big tax bills. Now, whether or not they pay them, that's a different story, especially kind of the mentality of a long-term holder in crypto. It's kind of gets into a different side of, tax payments. But so there's this huge amount of money that can kind of flow out of their, pockets. Like they had to sell some crypto to pay off the taxes. But there's two pieces to that. One is that the selling can stop. And two, there's a psychological relief where it's, okay, this is done. I don't need to think about this anymore. And then on the flip side of that, all the companies that had to pay taxes outside of crypto, banks, hedge fund, people that work at hedge funds who got bonus checks, all these people that had to pay their taxes that were due today are now done with that. And now they can go, they have a clear head, they're done with it, and they can go deploy new fiat potentially into this because they're not constantly thinking about paying their taxes. So it's really about what news from a profitability standpoint affects very high net worth people, both inside of crypto and outside of crypto. And taxes are a very, very big deal for the people in that world. So even if you're not in the United States, even if you're not in the top 5%, as 99.9% of people are not, I guess that math doesn't really work, but you know what I'm saying, 95% of people are not, it's still a big deal, even if it doesn't necessarily directly affect you. And that's the important piece of this. It could turn out to be a non-event. For all I know, this could end up just, comes and goes, and that's the end of that. But I do think that there's a bit more to it than meets the eye at first. So we'll see what happens. I think that's what's going to be such an interesting moment this week. And we'll see what happens over the next 48 hours. Now, let's refresh the CoinMarketCap. As always, we switch it to BTC pairings so that we can see what the true, BTC pricing increases. Now, there's two things to notice here. The first is what I just mentioned in Litecoin. Let's assume that narrative is correct. Let's assume that the fact that Litecoin led the charge means that the new fiat coming in is retail investors that are buying the cheapest thing on something like Coinbase. Like they're buying the cheapest that. The second thing to notice on this CoinMarketCap is we had a clear drop in BTC dominance, meaning that the market caps that expanded the most in this ecosystem were non-Bitcoin coins. They were altcoins. So that means that the money that's coming in, or the excitement, the bullishness, is in fact people that are trying to get the big percentage rips off of the altcoins. They want the alt seasons to happen. Now, again, this is a generalization of it all, but you can start to see these clues. You can start to piece these together, right? Yesterday we kind of talked about that. This is how you can connect the dots so you can start to make, conclusions. What conclusions would that be? Well, first, when you have your plan set up, you know that a lot of these altcoins are probably going to get the spikes early. And you may want to be more, rigorous about your profit taking this time around, as opposed to just saying, all right, I'm just going to let it ride, because, you get it while the hype is hot and get your 20%, and then you can move on or whatever it may be. But I think that this is showing that a lot of the excitement is moving into the altcoins. And as you decide which altcoins to pick up, that's your guess is as good as mine right now, because a lot of this is still all about hype. It's about the partnerships, it's about the marketing, it's about the news, it's about the airdrops. It's all about that. Eventually that's going to change, but it continues to be like that. And it will be until the market cap gets big enough where new money is buying into altcoins, especially through fiat on-ramps. That's when things are really going to start to change. There's new valuation metrics. Cardano's obviously actually done, continues to kind of have after yesterday, it kind of hung out at that top level. But I think that one thing that I would recommend, or at least that I would do, obviously this, you got to do what you want, your own decision here. Stick to coins that have liquidity. Meaning you want to buy, typically it's better or more, not better. It's very tempting to go to let's go to number 300, or I don't know. I don't know what these coins are, right? Let's just talk about hemp coin. I have no idea. No idea what hemp coin is. $22 million market cap. I don't know where it's traded, but I'm assuming there's probably not a liquidity. In fact, let's just open it up and go to the markets. Oh, it's actually on Bittrex, but even still, there's no liquidity, right? There's only $263,000 worth of hemp coin traded each day. That is not very much, meaning you can't buy much hemp coin. You also can't sell a lot of hemp coin, but the valuation, the market cap is very low, relatively speaking. So some people will look at this moment in time and say, all right, well, I'm going to buy the smallest cap coins I can find, because these are the ones that could go 100x or whatever it may be. And that has happened. It probably will happen again. I don't think from a long-term perspective, if there's good fundamentals, a great team, they solve a real problem, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But in this moment, in this situation where there's uncertainty, when we do not know what the future holds for crypto, but there's a lot of pent-up demand for these altcoins, I think it's a really good idea to make sure that you have coins that if and when they go up or if and when they go down, you have the ability to easily liquidate your position on a market, on Binance, on Bittrex, on any of the exchanges that you're using. It's a huge, it's a big piece of the puzzle that people often forget about, and people often hold on to coins because there is no liquidity. So there's a time and a place to accumulate small caps, and maybe that's part of your strategy. But I think that this moment in time, you want to stick to the higher liquidity coins. Typically, that's going to be anything on the top 100 page. You can be relatively safe with that. I don't know if those are going to be the ones that do the best, that have the biggest increases in gains, or don't have the increase in gains. I just know that liquidity is really the key. Now let's switch over to one interesting acquisition macro that happened. You're going to see a lot more of this. So Coinbase bought earn.com. If you don't know what earn.com is, it makes email paid. But it also allows people to earn crypto, specifically Bitcoin, by doing tasks, but mostly just by answering emails. So if someone wanted to email, I don't know, some scientist that you really look up to, or an author or whatever, and you had a question for them, you could email them, and if they decided to email you back, that would pay them. That would unlock, let's call it $50, and you would get a response, hopefully that was worth $50 from that person, and you can talk to any like very, very high level people. It's pretty cool idea that I've used. Now, the downside being is that it also, I know for myself, I have an account with them, and you get like ICO pitches all day, just whatever. So, I mean, there's still work to be done on it, but it is an interesting idea specifically for the reason that it gives people the ability to get crypto without actually buying crypto. So let's go back to all of you guys. If you think back to Thanksgiving, maybe not Thanksgiving because that's a US holiday. So let's think about, the holidays in general, right? Q4 last year, right before the altcoin season. Typically, that's when you hang out with friends and family more than other times of the year, right? And especially after the market's starting to do well, you're talking about crypto. To get people to sign up for cryptocurrency or sign up for, let's call it Gemini or Coinbase, whatever people use, it's hard to get them to go buy their first $100 worth of crypto. However, much higher conversion comes when you give them $5 and they go and they sign up, open up their Coinbase account, and there's $5 waiting for them. That is a very, very high conversion rate because they don't actually have to buy it. You can gift it to them. That is what earn.com, the big picture, that's what their vision is people can earn crypto. They don't have to buy it. Now, the reason why this is a big deal, one, it's great for the ecosystem, great for the usage of Bitcoin and whatever other tokens they decide to put in. But you got to connect this dot to why did Coinbase buy them? Now, remember, Coinbase brought in, I can't remember her name, somebody who was in charge of essentially mergers and acquisitions. Gosh, where did she? Salesforce? She worked somewhere else before this. And her job was basically come in and start buying companies. So we saw them buy earn.com. And you got to remember the big picture, the big vision of Coinbase. It is not to be an exchange. It is to empower the world with digital currency, with cryptocurrency in this case. And so Brian Armstrong, who is their CEO and co-founder of Coinbase, and he tweeted about how, one thing that's great about earn.com, helping shift cryptocurrency from investment phase to the utility phase, great real world use case. So I remember yesterday we talked about when the next big thing is coming. That's basically what he just tweeted. It's that we're going to get away from people just chasing the cash, and then it's going to be, oh, wow, things actually work. And then there'll be a second wave where there'll be a big, huge money run, but at least the new story will be that this stuff actually, people use it. It's a real utility. Many people got in through the investment phase, and this will continue to be a major driver. Another huge segment of the world that doesn't have disposable income to invest in volatile assets or even a bank account. So then he said what I thought was really insightful. Those people will get their first crypto by earning it, not by buying it. Completing a task or finding a job, employment, in the gig economy will be a major gateway for people to obtain their first bit of cryptocurrency. So think about when Coinbase does their quarterly review, or they do their yearly review to their investors, and they sit down with Barry Silbert and they say, listen, we are still on track for creating a financially free system globally. And we're going to get 1 billion people to use this every year. I think that's the number. 1 billion monthly transacting users is what they're looking for. And they're going to do that by the exchange, which is where they are at right now. They're also going to do that through Toshi, which is their app that's built on Ethereum and kind of creates the WeChat for crypto. Then they start integrating these new technologies, these new companies, and specifically these new teams, because the founder of Earn is now going to be their CTO. And you start to see that that's the big picture. They're going after the globe to use crypto on a micro level. They're doing what we talk about all the time, where how do you go get 20, 30, 50 of your friends and family to go get $50 worth of Bitcoin, not only to use it, or not only to hold it, but to use it, to have wealth, but to have utility, right? To be a part of it. And so they are finding in the places where people do not have money to spend, they don't have $1,000 on the side. I mean, even in America, a lot of people don't have that. Or in any developed country, the savings rates are at an all-time low. And this is a big piece of where they're going. And so the reason why that matters in the, connecting all those dots into the decisions you make, you look at the charts, you look at the altcoins. If you are going long on this idea, if you are betting long on Coinbase and on this idea of getting a billion monthly active users using crypto, you start to look at coins that can integrate into that vision. Typically, it's going to be an ERC20 token. If you're going to buy into Coinbase's vision, if you think that they will be the winner through all of this, and that's a whole different discussion. And then you find out how can this individual coin, how can this individual vision of these coins integrate into what these guys are doing. This is a big piece of it because they're going to keep buying companies. They're going to keep building it out in order to build an empire that goes out and democratizes the financial system. It's a very ambitious plan, but if anyone's going to do it, these guys are, at least right now, the ones who are in a position to do it. So this is where like the big money is made. Right? I was watching this guy, Raoul Paul, on Real Vision. If you're ever into macro, you go check out Real Vision with Raoul Paul. He's a brilliant guy. They have great content. It's paid, but they have some free stuff too. And they talk all about how this stuff, these big moves, this macro, this is how the big money's made. This is how like the 1000x, this is how you can put 200 million into an idea and it turns into 50 billion or whatever, which may seem like it's not directly relevant to where you are right now. But the more you think about this kind of stuff, the more you will find yourself looking at these big ideas. You'll be more interested in crypto. You'll be more interested in the markets. And that will indirectly lead to hopefully making better decisions, which leads to, more enjoyment, but bigger profits. Can't promise anything, obviously. Now I think it's really important to come back to this. And I'm by no means am I trying to toot my own horn here, but I think that this is the idea. So in March, I tweeted about this, where I said institutional money on Bitcoin, in my opinion, number one, buy as much possible as OTC. We're seeing that. We're continuing to see that. Gemini's coming out with the Genesis or the blocks. Genesis trading in New York City is like out of control. But that's really that's continuing to be a market. The second piece, buy framework businesses to facilitate market architecture. This is where we're at now, right? This is what's happening behind the scenes. If you go walk into Coinbase's office, I have not done that anytime recently. Number two, this is probably what the biggest conversation piece would be. What can we buy? What companies can we acquire? What teams can we acquire to facilitate this vision of what we want? And Coinbase is not the only ones doing this. I mean, Gemini is going to do it. They've got different patents. They have different vision for what they want to do with crypto and investment. They're more of a financial. They kind of see the finance side of it, right, from an investment standpoint for funds and things like that. But there's also just, there's companies in Asia that are thinking about this. There's companies in Europe that are thinking about this, but they're all trying to get market share. The fastest way to get market share, any business, is to acquire companies as fast as you can and roll them into a singular business model. And then you get into the new investment products, because once you have the architecture, you got to monetize it and grow it. And then you start marketing that horse, right? You start pushing that whole business model out into the real public. And so this may be second half of 2000 and what year is it? 2018. Jeez. But you're going to continue to see this. This is not the first, nor is the last. Along those lines, the founder, and I honestly don't think I'm going to be able to pronounce his name, Balaji Srinivasan. He's the founder of Earn, but he tweeted about, hey, we just got acquired. He also wrote a blog post that showed how they pivoted their company, how they turned it around for the most part. I remember when it was 21.co, and that's when I first signed up. A buddy of mine was helping them out, and they became Earn.com last year, I believe. Go check it out. It's cool to watch how these companies have pivoted over the years in this ecosystem. And both the timing and the business model. What was it that got it to catch? Not necessarily that acquisitions are always the end game in venture capital or in startups or whatever it is, but it is a clear bookend onto the chapter. So it's always good I find it's always good to read about how they got to where they are, especially now that he's going to be the CTO of Coinbase, because you can glean a lot of information from this around the personalities, what motivates them, what kind of impact they're going to have on the vision of the company, and in many cases on the entire market. Now, last piece for all you Verge fans out there, which I know there are, just released a new partnership with Pornhub, which is an adult website. It was a very big adult website from what it sounds. And they're going to partner with Verge so that you can pay with cryptocurrency on the site. Now let's just back up for a second here, because there's a lot that's packed into this concept, this idea. First, Verge is a very polarizing coin, all right? And I don't own any Verge. I think I own a little Verge because on Binance, if you sign up through my affiliate link, I get like 0.1% of the fees, and so you get like commissions on whatever people buy, all anonymously. So yeah, I might have a couple hundred Verge somewhere on a Binance account, but I haven't purchased any. So that's where I'm coming from. And so there's a lot of people that hate Verge, and there's a lot of people that love Verge. So that's the first piece. And by no means is this an endorsement or telling you should go out and buy it, but I do think it's good to try to be objective about this, no matter what your feelings are about the actual coin. So there's two camps that hate it. So you know that whatever comes out of that coin, it's going to get heated debate. That is one of the best marketing tools, right? You look at some of the best marketers out there, and when I say best, some of the biggest marketers out there, it's people that are very polarizing, right? They get diehard fans and they get people that hate them. He who is friends with everyone is friends with no one. That's a very, very good lesson in marketing. They do a partnership that had major hype built into it. They're like, this is going to change crypto forever. This is going to be the biggest thing ever, everything. On the tail end of raising, I believe it was $3 million that got sent over to a Binance exchange account. So that was all, that was pretty weird to begin with. And they come out and they say, now we're partnering with Pornhub, and they use some pretty tongue-in-cheek language, pretty coy stuff in their tweet announcements. I think Charlie Lee had a similar reaction to that. And so I think that what you're seeing is the two camps reacting very differently. You're seeing the people that hate Verge saying, this is the biggest scam ever. The tech sucks. The fundraising was a complete ripoff. And, XYZ, like it's going to tank. And you look at the chart. Let's just pull it up actually. XVG. We look at it. So it's obviously pumped big time because of this news. And the market's not overly stoked about this news as it looks on the 1 hour. It kind of really pumped and dumped pretty hard. So that's what's going on with this kind of hater crowd. And then you've got the evangelists, the people that are really excited. I need a glass of water here. Excuse me. It's early. You get the evangelists who love Verge. They love how fast it is. They love how cheap it is. They love the technology. They love the team. Like they just love it because it's Verge. And there's a whole sociological implication to that. However, that's really important to have with a coin, right? You having a community of people that loves your coin, that will hold it and buy it no matter what, is very, very important in this market. So that's what the ecosystem looks like. Very polarizing thing. And, okay, so I'll leave it at that. Let's assume that this wasn't Verge for a second. And let's assume that this partnership ends up being 100% legit. Everything about it works out correctly. It gets rolled out quickly. There's a great onboarding UX experience, meaning that people that are using the site, they can easily buy and use the coin for payment or whatever utility. But let's say it didn't have this backdrop of being a polarizing coin on it. Let's say this was Bitcoin or Litecoin or whatever, and it was something that kind of everyone was like, "Yeah, cool, okay, it's not the end of the world." This would actually be a pretty awesome business model. When you look at what industries are going to benefit most from cryptocurrency in the short term, what are called the Vice tokens, which is adult industry, this kind of Pornhub type sites, cannabis industry, gambling, right? All the things that are typically, there's gray areas of legality based on what country or what your age is and things like that. Those industries have enormous profits and they have huge problems with merchant processors, with hosting, with payments, with everything, right? Because of the jurisdiction issues. And so this presents a very, very interesting moment in time, because you're going to start to see potentially good, like this is a kind of thing that, whether or not how you feel about the adult industry is a different discussion, but like this could actually be a very real use case. There's a huge amount of traffic for this stuff. It solves a very clear problem. It's private. People, like, there's a massive need on the company side and on the user side for a variety of reasons. It's just that it's layered behind this polarizing coin. And it's also there's many more details to that, obviously. And so by no means am I saying go out and buy this coin, buy Verge. I'm not saying that at all. But I do think that this is such an interesting case study of how it affects price, how it affects reputation of the coin, but also how it affects the kind of integrations into businesses that really need crypto. Right? This is such a emotionally packed thing. That's why I'm bringing it up. We have to be able to step back, emotions aside. Is there a problem to be solved that's profitable? I mean, it's a huge bonus right now in crypto. Do the teams or the companies have the ability to execute and make this happen? And is the infrastructure real? Is it available? Like, is this stuff built? Is it a real deal thing? Those could all be debated. That's for everyone to figure out and decide for yourselves. But I'm really fascinated with how this is going to play out, how the market and the sentiment reacts to this, and what comes next with this. So for all you Verge fans out there, here's your shout out. For all you Verge haters out there, there's your big red candle that just shows how much the market has dumped the price. So hopefully everybody wins, and you can go forth and conquer. But cool times happening. Again, we're really going to keep an eye on this week. But interesting stuff happening behind the scenes. A lot of good macro stuff. There's always things happening beyond just the price that can make this a really exciting market to be a part of and be really the financial revolution that we're all here for. So with that, I got to roll. I hope you have a great day. Happy Tuesday. Peace out.